Yeah, so I'm looking forward to when Rezinoc. How can I say this?
I like to view him. I like to view Rez as a transcender, right? So he's starting at like the street level because he doesn't have a real big power base. But as he grows in his power set, I imagine Rez will be one to transcend to each different tier, to where even he may, if he gets the right power set, right, then he may even be able to compete with people like Pokey.
And not even his power set, but the more he learns more about himself, because in his solo episode, the doctor told him
God,
that he
fuck you on that one, dude.
He was different. Yeah, cliffhanger, huh?
Dude, everything about Rezinoc is a fucking cliffhanger. His DNA is a cliffhanger, right? And and I'm sure anybody that knows me by now, like mostly the GT chat, I'm like, dude, where's Rezinoc this game? Dude, where's Rezinoc this game, right? And I bug you about it, and you're like, hey, everything's a story. He's got to do it. But I'm thinking, hey, these past 2 episodes, Rezinoc is unconscious flying through the air. I'm like, is he hitting the ground yet? Am I dead, right? So I'm like, I'm super anxious to see what happens, and that's part of the excitement, right? And that's why you were saying that you don't tell people who's in what episodes, because you don't want people to skip over, right? Every part's important,
right?
Which is where I went back, obviously, and rewatched the last one with Tembrus and Virus, just because I had initially skipped it because I was on a time crunch, and I was like, oh, Rez isn't here, let's skip this one for now. But I did go back and listen to it, so I mean, I treated it fair, because Tembrus is a cool guy, and Virus doesn't talk much anymore in the chat, but he's a good guy too.
Yeah. Speaking of, you had what'd you say? Oh yes, the cliffhanger. I would like to know your thoughts on Rezinoc's episode and the things that occurred in that training exercise. I want to know what you think about the other G types. I rolled those G types to see what kind of powers they were going to have, and I wanted to know your thoughts on them.
So I think it's really interesting that you had a brother and sister in there that both had a similar power set as far as energy. I'm assuming what's energy manipulation with tweaks on it. And that they both had their own forms of it, right? So the one brother can essentially, in my view, shape energy and use it in a more explosive way, like to temporarily boost his own capabilities. And the sister was more like a long-term, try to like float on her disc and win passively, which is why I think it was perfect when you were saying Rez fucked with her mentally, because she's a scaredy cat and unsure of herself.
Yes, and they were all fairly novices with their own abilities. Yeah, she was more of a getting to know her own powers, kind of a Silver Surfer with her energy board. His powers was all derived from his hat, the energy cap.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of gave him fantastic powers. And by fantastic powers, I mean things that you would traditionally see a protagonist have, like power-ups in a video game like Mario. Like he could, make himself big. He had a boomerang in that episode not too long ago. And just really...
Yeah, it's like you're scrolling through the items in Mario Kart.
Really, really cliche, fantastic items, but it was all from the hat. And then you had your dude with the helmet.
The helmet head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was really cool how you developed him, even though he's already dead. How he was really unsure of himself, and the helmet was bigger because it showed that, an outside force had to help him control his power more. But then by the time Rez saw him again, he had a smaller helmet and he was more confident in himself and can control it more.
Right.
I thought that was a really cool character development, even though he wasn't a main character.
So I brought this up because I wanted to see if I was able to kind of express it successfully through writing. But what do you think the power was of the other gentleman that lasted in the end with you?
The intensive one?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know, because I feel like he's more of a physical ability guy, because nothing about him spoke out. Like Rez obviously didn't see anything, right? Which means that it doesn't have a visual effect, or it's something completely internal. And he was able to make leaps and bounds, and you at one point described him punching his hands into the fucking stone and just climbing up it. I'm like, dude, this guy's pure physical capability. And when you're like, he's going to take one last leap, I was like, fuck, I lost this event. I'm not going to be able to train. And then you're like, and then Rez freaks out and blasts him in the back. I'm like, that coward. I totally would have played it like that, right? I think you have Rezinoc down to the grain of sand, man. Like, that's why I trust what you write, because I can only put in a little bit, and then you just take it to like the same place I was going, but even better. So I think he was a really cool character, especially for the fact that he gave Rez a run for his money.
Right. So,
and he didn't use any powers; he used like more physical capabilities.
Okay. Yeah. So
what was his powers?
It was, and I purposely didn't express too much because he was definitely probably going to be, or not probably, he was going to be a reoccurring character.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's and exclusively to Rez's solo series. But I definitely will spill the beans now. His power was inspiration. He was able to be inspired, like, in copious amounts, like exponentially. So whenever he saw something that inspired him, and he was determined to win, that's why I kept writing. He's, when you were looking at him, he was already looking at you. Do you remember me writing that? Yeah. So whenever you were ahead, he's watching you. He's catching up. You know what I mean? Because he's inspired.
Yep. Now that you say that, everything clicked.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about this game. A power such as inspiration can make you keep up with someone who has a power set that lets them do anything.
Yes.
Like that's so cool. That is such a good way to like kind of show even new players who are just listening the fact that you can have something as weird as an inspiration power and still have you be a competitor.
Yes.
Like, that is awesome. What a badass power set.
Yeah. So that's what that was. I was curious if what's your thoughts on him? That
is cool. I didn't pick up on that at all.
Okay. That
was really well written.
So
what about the trainer? I'm curious now, because we probably won't be able to explore this anymore.
All right. So
which sucks. I'm so upset about that.
He is. I have it written down, but I know he was. One of his abilities was definitely martial arts with that pole.
Yeah.
But he could also. It was the obsidian. It was obsidian. It was an obsidian staff, and he's just really good with that obsidian staff. Granted, it was also part of the computer simulation that he was, able to pull it out of the ground. But in the real world, he would be able to do something similar to that. So similar to how, I'm thinking of Village.
that moment when you have too much shit going on in your head.
So you know how Deacon Myers has that axe that was passed down to him in Village. This person, when I rolled him, there was a lot of emphasis I was putting a lot of emphasis on his ability, and then I wanted to expand on that, and then I drummed up the staff. And that's why he's there, because he's just just an amazing combatant. And that's why he's so cocky. But that obsidian staff is stupid heavy. It's stupid powerful. And
it's obsidian.
Yeah. So that was pretty much his ability. Like, he's swinging that thing around like it's nothing.
Yeah. So he's super buff. I really like the way that you wrote that fight scene, because just the way that you wrote Rezinoc being surprised at something working and how giddy he was, and the other trainers are like, what the fuck's up with this guy? Like, he's acting kind of weird, and like everything's new to him. And I'm like, dude, he's writing this shit perfectly. And then I got clocked in the head, and I'm like, and I lost the rolls.
So at the same time, for the solo series, I feel like this is also like a single player game. So I felt like the first session, the first episode, would also serve as a learning experience for the player, because your series is all about starting from the ground up, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, this would be a perfect opportunity, especially because you're in the training, to learn that it's more than just abilities. Like, granted, you have a bunch of abilities, but you can't forget that you can't fucking fight. You know what I
No,
mean?
not at all.
You're going against.
Like, I might be lean, but I'm a wimp.
Right. So that was kind of like the first. That was like the moral of the first episode. Now dig this. Whenever I roll, I always do a 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were telling me that.
You won the second one, so you almost won. You almost won that joint.
Shit. I'm actually really glad I lost though, because it's a good stepping stone, like you said.
Yeah.
And in the future, we might be able to pursue more of Rezinoc Origins,
right?
Which will be really exciting. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good starting point. And then you dropped it off at I don't even know what my DNA is, and nobody else has seen it. And that really works in because I remember submitting something to you about Rezinoc being like an extraterrestrial race, and you're like, no, that's too like what, outer spacey, essentially, for what you're trying to do right now.
Exactly.
Right, but you're like, but I have the perfect idea, so I don't even know what I am. So with everyone else being having a cliffhanger, I'm on the edge of my seat because it's my character. And I'm like, what the fuck don't I know about Rezinoc, right?
Yeah.
So that's intense, man. Like, you have no idea. Every episode that comes out, I'm like, what am I going to learn this time?
Yeah. So let's wrap this up with Ryan. Okay, Ryan Quinn. This is a character that, and let me shine some light. So at the time, I was doing the character reports. Mm-hmm. And I was in the process of getting the character reports out when you said that you were switching characters. So I didn't even waste my time doing a character report on Zivlin, Titus Zivlin. Nope. But you brought in a new character, and so did Kay McVeigh. So Kay McVeigh's character was already made, Dr. Wainwright. He never submitted in the last episode. So he was never introduced. So I thought this, by you creating a new character and me wanting to do a character report for you, because I didn't want to just not do a character report. So I'm like, okay, this would be a great opportunity to not only bring in your new character, but also have you bring in his fucking character. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, dude, that was a perfect segue. And just to clarify for the viewers, I'm not running 2 characters. I don't have Titus and Quinn. I have Ryan Quinn. I just have Ryan now because I retired Titus due to my ideas with him being a little too expansive. Again, right? I seem to be over the top. Just being a little bit too expansive for where we're currently at.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because that brings up the point that Village, when you don't see a character, doesn't mean that they're gone, because it's like a survival horror Walking Dead show. Like, there's a lot of people in the camp. You just don't see them. The show focuses on.
Yeah, they're not part of the foreground. They're foreground. Yeah, they're background characters.
Yeah, so Titus Zivlin is still there. So, when you might not see Titus Zivlin, but he's still there until further notice.
Yeah, you might hear of him helping out, like some of the more mainstream, like Jack and Harmony, because they're little inventors.
Right.
So he can be like a background, like, oh hey, yeah, Titus helped out with this or whatever. Right. But the main focus for me now will be Ryan.
Right. And also, when Dr. Wainwright or Kay McVeigh said that he wanted his character, he was like, when you introduce him, you can make it so that he is, he's coming from another camp, and he can forewarn the players about a threat. But he didn't know that the camp is already there. Your character's in the camp. They just weren't introduced.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? This would be a good opportunity to bring in this wild man, this Ryan Quinn person. And, that way I can kind of still do what Kay McVeigh saw, you know what I mean? And also introduce the wild man. So that's kind of how that played out. And at the same time, foreshadow, maybe some future threats.
Yeah.
Wild man Ryan Quinn seems to know a little bit about something, because he said something in the short along the lines of, damn, it's happening here too. What do you think that's about? What do you think that theory is? What's your theory on that?
So Ryan Quinn was built because he has a vow of silence, right? So he's trying not to talk. So he thinks more a lot to himself. But he was built to be an athletic survival mixture, right? So his favorite terrain, so to speak, is the wilderness, the outside. So I imagine he's traveled quite a bit and seen quite a lot. So that probably, to me, foretells that he has seen some shit in another part of the world that he hadn't thought had traveled that far yet, right? Something that he thought might be a little bit more contained. And so the fact that he's like, damn it, it's happening here too, means that it's traveling faster than he thought it would, and that's probably extremely troublesome.
Right. So he's a man of the woods. He's probably been out in the wilderness, at least in the local area in the state. And when he saw Looper all cramped up, and he was carrying Dr. Wainwright, who looks like he was also cramped up. It's safe to say that he might know or have encountered what Looper,
the alien creatures or whatever.
Did I say Looper?
Yeah, I think is he playing Joe or is he playing John?
Joe Mason, yeah.
Joe Mason, yeah.
The tree thing that Joe Mason encountered, not the aliens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they're all alien to me. I don't know what the fuck's in your world. Right, it's a tree thing that can mess with you. Like, that's alien to me, man. It's your brain, all right, not mine. So yeah, that might be, it's like, okay, that's a wood nymph playing with the people. To me, I'm like, that's some kind of alien badass that's gonna rape us all. But yeah, so just him seeing that. But here's the thing, he might know it, but he's not gonna break his vow of silence yet.
Yes, so let's talk about that vow of silence. I wanted to bring that up just in case people maybe misinterpreted that because of how maybe I explained it, but maybe
you're like, this guy's an asshole.
So if you could just kind of give us the rundown on this vow of silence. You explained it on your character page pretty clearly, but for the viewers or the listeners, what's going on with Ryan Quinn? Why does he have this vow of silence?
So to me, Ryan has a vow of silence because one of the last things that he spoke to was a promise to his daughter that he would always keep her safe, right? Like, in his word to him is paramount and king. So the fact that his daughter died after he promised her that he would always protect her, basically to him meant that his word was shit and that he shouldn't just talk at all right now until he can make sure that he can fulfill what he says he will. So like, his daughter dying really fucked him up. Damn.
And he has some things that already gives him a lot of things in common with some of the other characters in the camp.
We'll see in that, and Nom's Harmony, right? So one of those things she was talking about, because Harmony freaks out when Annalisa, her bodyguard, is gone, right? And she relies heavily on her. And one of the things Nom was saying was, if Annalisa dies, who is she going to depend on, right? And one of Ryan's words was that he was going to protect his daughter, and he failed to do so. So he might try to overcompensate by making sure these other younger girls who are around his daughter's age are protected, right? So if Annalisa dies, then there's a possibility that while Ryan may not be vocal or really intent about it, he might keep an eye on Harmony to make sure that she's safe. Like, there may be submissions that I send into you that are like, yeah, he'll go to whatever event Harmony's going to go to make sure she's safe. Kind of situations like that. So it'll be a really interesting character development.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything you wanted to say for the viewers before we go?
Yeah, honestly, just have faith in what D is writing, because while we may all be pissed off that he's killing all of our characters, there's a greater purpose to it.
Right on.
A greater purpose.
Right on. Table setting.
Heck yeah.
All right, man.
And I'm excited. Okay, I have a question for you, though, before we sign off. When is this episode coming out? Because, dude, we are all clenching. Hey, and like I said, a 3-hour episode, fine by me.
No, it actually might be the opposite of a really, really long episode. It's going to be whatever length it turns out to be, of answers, clarification, and closure. And
oh shit! So like, even if things don't resolve, it could be the intro to season 2 kind of thing.
absolutely, because you got to remember, this is going to be this is, in my eyes, a never-ending game.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not going
to just cut it into chunks.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a finale and a cliffhanger. It's because we're going to be starting to maybe like 2 weeks after that, so there's no point in the cliffhanger. It's going to be full of answers, closure, and it's going to be an alley-oop setting up the alley for the start of the next season.
God, I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked.
In a game where there are so many characters, naturally, there's a lot of threads. I call them threads that are opened, and these threads have to be closed. And I think that's more of what I'm focusing on than a long drawn out episode.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I just want to know, like, because Makai's coming in, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't seen Makai. Rez is gonna die by hitting the sidewalk. We haven't seen Nam Draven 6 yet. Like, there's a lot that you're gonna work on closing, but it's gonna be such a jam-packed episode.
Yes, it is. You got Nam, Drav, 6, Deathtude, and their thing. You have Rez, who has yet to see some closure. Undead, Dark Makai, Kai Excalibur. Granted,
fire.
He made an appearance here and there. Then you still got R-Type X, who's still alive, and you still got the Light and the Instigator and Zamina.
Yeah, dude, and oh my god, season 2 is gonna be lit, and especially if this isn't gonna be like a super episode as the last one. Season 2 is gonna be lit.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Well, I'm excited. I think we all are.
Yeah, man. But man, I definitely want to thank you for joining me. I always enjoy your submissions. I love your enthusiasm. I love your characters, and I'm looking forward to having you, in the game and continuing to bless us with your creativity, man.
Well, I appreciate you and everything that you do, D. You got to put up with 30 adults that are trying to play. So a big shout out to you for coming out with all of this stuff and dealing with us. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks.